Thank you for joining our presentation on the Cablevision case, developed by David Beam and Frank Edwards for Columbia Caseworks in 2011. This is Group 3, Caroline, Chris, and Chandra. First, we will present an overview of the Cablevision Corporation. Then we will discuss some of the corporate governance issues that existed within the corporation, including a bias on the board of directors, a dual class structure in the stock, and unfair valuations of buyout offers. Following a discussion on the corporate governance issues, we will present our recommendations on mitigating those issues. Cablevision was founded in the 1960s by Charles Dolan as a small cable company in Manhattan. You may also note that Cablevision developed HBO, the Home Box Office Network. Cablevision had their IPO in 1986. The members of the Dolan family comprised the board of directors at Cablevision. Till this day, they still make up a majority of the Cablevision board. Cablevision, as a corporation, provides cable, internet, and telecommunication services. They also previously owned Madison Square Garden and Rainbow Media. Since they have spun off and became independently operated firms, but the Dolan family continues to have a majority stake in those entities. The major governance issues at Cablevision stem from the organization of their board of directors. As you will see from this table, many of Cablevision's board of directors are part of the Dolan family. Even those that appear to be different based on their last names still have some sort of relation to the Dolan family. Only the two members highlighted in red are considered independent members of the board, and they make up the independent committee. This independent committee is very important as far as representation of the shareholders that are not family members. As Chris will discuss, the shares are broken down into Class A and Class B shares. The Class B shares are owned by the Dolan family, and the Class A shares are owned by the general population of shareholders in the market. And they have inequalities as far as voting rights and so forth.
In terms of shareholder relations, Cablevision had some underlying issues. It was clear to shareholders which party unanimously made all the decisions, and of course it was our Class B shareholders that caused instability of share price, and they actually promoted a negative sentiment in the market. The three underlying issues are dual class share structure, biased Class B board of directors, and Cablevision's use of power for unfair practice against its minority shareholders. And not to mention, there was an issue with the buyout process, which would be explained further. In terms of the dual class share structure, it's not uncommon among stocks. We can look at Ford, which since the inception of the company, it's always been a family-run organization. And I kind of understand where Cablevision comes from, because they do not want to share control with any outside party, and they have every right to. But I feel like the dual class share structure acts as a shield to protect them from against hostile takeover. But in a sense, Cablevision should not have any worries, since they own 75% of the outstanding common stock. And in essence, who else can instill some accountability to the Class B shareholders? And with the dual class structure, it's simply 10-to-1 ratio. And as a shareholder, if I'm investing anything in Cablevision, I would want some say in some say in what my funds are actually going to. For the biased board structure, 75% is controlled by the Dolans. This can create some internal conflict as management can be entrenched in their own ways. And as we have seen, the Dolans take on some bad projects, such as the Boom Project, $600 million per year for many years, and no one actually stepped up to the Dolans to say, there's an issue here. And who else is going to be paying for it? It's going to be the minority shareholders, and it is a problem. And one has to ask themselves, who is the biased board actually working for? Is it for the family, or is it for the interest of the shareholders? Obviously, it's all one-sided, and even with the attempts for the buyouts, the biased board always voted yes, and it was the exact opposite for Class A, in which they abstained all three proposals. And let's see. Like many companies, the Dolans took Cablevision public to draw investors to fund the infrastructure enhancements. This was in order to stay competitive, but Cablevision took on debt for many years. The company became unprofitable as a result of the increase on the infrastructure enhancements. Eventually, when the company saw positive return from the investments made, they obviously wanted to take the profits, and this was in order to buy out shareholders. However, they would have had to borrow additional funds just for the buyout itself.
Hi, my name is Chandra, and I will be going over the recommendations for the Cablevision. Basically, we categorize the recommendations into three segments. One is what they should be doing about the board, and how that's the first one. And the second one is how they should be, the dual class structure, what exactly they should be doing to, for the dual class, the share structure, and how they can improve the offers if they have to buy out, if they have to go for a private or public, or how exactly they can improve the value of Cablevision. Okay. Next one. So the first one is the reduced bias of the board. As we have seen in the previous slides, since the Dolan family is the one that who incorporated this Cablevision, their dominance is major, because of which there is a lot of effect going on in the board, meaning the key decisions, since they are the majority shareholders, they have a lot of influence on the board, even the external in terms of even the independent members. So the board has to this bias has to be reduced. So the Dolan family has to come down in terms of the number of members representing from their families, so that that their personal interests can be kept aside, and then they can work for the benefit of the Cablevision and the Cablevision shareholders and their customers. So that's number one. And number two, you can say they should be establish the accountability, who is accountable for what, instead of looking for self-interest. Everyone should be accountable for each and every the performance of the company. Also, the outsiders, by getting outsider, it becomes very inevitable that an outsider perspective is much better than a person who is seeing the company since its establishment. So when an outsider comes, he knows what is good for the company, what is wrong for the company, what are the changes that needs to be done. So that gives a different whole different perspective to the company to grow in future. So that is one thing. So they have to bring in some outsiders as second. That's one. And the last one being the minority shareholder, Class A shareholders, should be fairly represented. Like, right now, like the Dolan family is a majority representation, but like, I think every shareholder should be represented fairly. Next, eliminate the dual class share system. In Cablevision, we have seen like they have two class shares, class A and class B. And then which is taking priority when it comes to voting and the key important decision. So and the ratio is also pretty much it's a multiply ratio 10:1. So they should say it's a irrespective of the shares it should be a one vote or one share. And then this will allow the management to be held accountable for the by the shareholders instead of one person influencing the voting. And then this also creates equality among the shareholders. It's not no more 10:1. Whatever majority, whatever stake I have in the company is equal to the other stake, and then whatever voting rights I have, it is equal to the other person's stake, other person voting holders. And then the communication channels has to be established so that everyone is aware, up to date on what's happening in the company and where are we heading to, what are the changes in the board, what are the stock policies and everything. And this way, the Dolans, they don't lose the majority of their ownership, even though they are not, since they are not represented on the board, doesn't mean they are losing the majority of their ownership. They are still they might have the majority of the ownership, but it's just that we are recommending to say okay, just keep your personal interests aside, and then work for the let everyone work for the benefit of the Cablevision and the company and the customers. Okay, and the last recommendation is how to improve the valuation of Cablevision. For this, we have to allow the Class A shareholders to vote on selection of a firm that is performing the valuation, which means if we are bringing an outside firm, for example Merrill Lynch, who can perform how the valuation of the company, at what price we have to sell this company, the Class A shareholders should have a say in it. Also, the Class A shareholders should have a say in the methods that they are going to use to perform this evaluation. The next one is maximize the shareholder value. How we can maximize the shareholder value? You have 10 divisions. Out of these 10 divisions, one of the division is not working very well. Do you want to sell the company as a whole? So because this one division which is performing low, which is running in losses, might impact the entire shareholder entire value. Maybe the best way would spin off that particular division and then say the remaining 8 or 9 divisions, we can say okay, these are performing well, these are in profits. This way you are maximizing your shareholders value. So we can take that approaches. So that's how we can that is one recommendation. Okay, any questions, please email us at the below email addresses. Thank you. Bye-bye.